Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to share with you what are my favorite art supplies in 2022. And let's start with a little bit of a random item, and this is this drawing clipboard. I don't know why, but I never tried them before, and last year I decided that I wanted to draw a bit more and it wasn't really comfortable drawing in a sketchbook, so I started just taking a separate sheets of paper and then I could sit on the couch and draw on this board, and it was so comfortable and nice, and I've been really enjoying using it, so I look forward to use it more. The next art supply is very new to me and I haven't been using it as much as it deserves probably, but I'm really looking forward to learning more about it. And this is the oil pastel from Cinelea, and this is just some random chocolate candy box, I suppose, that I'm using for this pastel, because I didn't buy any sets. As first I just wanted to try how it feels, and I believe these iridescent colors were the first two that I decided to try, and my favorite is this one. Let me see how it's called. Yes, reddish brown gold. And I tried it out, and the feeling when you draw or paint, I'm not sure actually if you paint or draw with oil pastel, but it's incredible. This is Cinelea pastel and it's like painting with lipstick, and I don't know, it's just so pleasant, this whole process, that I've been experimenting a lot now with different mixed media styles, and this is definitely one of my favorite things to add to my watercolors. I have, for example, 2 white sticks that sometimes I use for highlights. I love iridescence, and as I paint greenery quite often, I also use this dark green and light green quite often as well. And then there was a discount on this set, and this is a iridescence palette. Let me show it to you. As you can see, it's packaged so very nicely. And look at this. It's sort of these wonderful colors that I can't wait to paint with. I did already paint a little bit, you can probably see it a little bit on the top. But I just loved the feeling of oil pastel, or pastel. I'm actually not sure how to say it correctly, so sorry about that. So I'm looking forward to painting more with this, because I think they're just beautiful and they go well with watercolors, oddly enough, at least in my opinion. And I just really love them, and the quality is amazing. So the next art supply that I would like to talk about is this Derwent Inktense pencils. They are incredible. I like them so very much. It's a true joy to use them. As you can see, they can behave like usual pencils, but you can also use water, and then they might seem as if they're like watercolor pencils, except that you can layer on top, and then you almost won't disturb the previous layer. I think there's still a little bit of a mix going on, but it's very little and very insignificant. And I've been using it actually quite a few times, which is unusual for me, because it's very rare actually that I reach out for pencil, and almost never that I make the whole sketch with a pencil. Usually it goes only as an addition to my watercolor paintings. But this set, it's just wonderful. And first when you look at it, it's like, I'm not sure, it feels a little bit cheap somehow, to be honest. But as soon as this pencil touches the paper, you can just feel how incredible they are and what a pleasure it is to draw with them. So if you like those techniques when you're using pencils, and then you need to make some smooth transitions with adding water and so on, I highly recommend. That's definitely one of my go-to supplies. Even when I travel, if I have an opportunity, I will take them with me, because they are so easy and nice to use, and you can use them on their own, you can use them with watercolors, for quick sketches, for detailed pieces, whatever you want. It's definitely a beautiful thing that Derwent came up with. So, and continuing the topic of pencils and pastels, I also picked up this peat pastel from Faber-Castell. And I did it only because I wanted to use this as a highlight for my watercolors, because sometimes it's very nice to use something opaque as an ink for the highlights, but it can be a bit too much, you know, too bright, too white, while this one I find a bit more natural, and then when you put a highlight on top, you can also blur it a little bit so it looks more harmonious in the painting, at least in my opinion. And this is one of the things that I take with me when I travel. Other art supplies or art supply that I tried this year and that's new for me is that fluid acrylics or acrylic inks or flow acrylics. I'm not sure how they're called in golden, but I really like the concept because I do actually like acrylics and I do like watercolors. So to me it was a little bit like, that's the best from both worlds. So for now I just picked up these colors, and this is an Academy acrylic inks from Schminke. They were on very big discount. I believe they were like 50%. And as I wasn't sure if I was going to like them or not, I just picked the basic colors and the white, because in acrylics it's okay to mix it with the white. And I've made for now just one piece, but it was already so inspiring that now I have a bunch of crazy ideas in my head that I can't wait to put them on paper. And I think I will be posting them on Instagram, so if you're not following me there, then make sure that you do, because one of my art resolutions for the next year is actually post a little bit more on Instagram, because it's actually very rare that I film how I paint, because I like to immerse in the process and I don't like to think about filming when I'm painting. But unfortunately this last year I didn't put that many paintings on Instagram, so this year hopefully I'll be there more often, so to say, and share more with you what I'm making. So, and yeah, I hope you'll be excited, because I really have an idea for a collection in my mind and I think it's just gonna be great. But you know, that's just my opinion. Okay, so let's move on. So next art supplies that I have already mentioned in some of my videos, it's this watercolor masking fluid by Panduro. Nothing changed. I like it very much. I reach out to it mostly when I do watercolor paintings and when I want to use masking fluid, because I tried also the one from Pibeo, the blue one. I'm not a fan. And I don't really like the one from Schminke either. So this one is my top choice for masking fluid, because you also really get a lot, and even though I don't open it that often, it seems that it's still in great condition, so it's going to last me for a long time, and I think the price was quite manageable as well. Though I must confess that I also picked up this one, and this is the also masking fluid by Sinelea, and I took it because there's a 0.5 millimeter point for small details, and I can see that it's much more liquidy. So, but I don't know how it's gonna go with this. I heard also great reviews about this masking fluid, or at least the masking fluid from Sinelea. So I don't want to give a go to this one, at least for small details. But other than that, then I think this one will remain my masking fluid of choice, because it's just great. I love that it dries out transparently so you can see the drawing underneath, and then you can really plan out your piece while leaving out some of the space. So it's really great, really enjoy it. And now let's move to more interesting stuff, which is brushes. So these are some of the brushes that I picked up this year. And I believe that I actually will not be buying this many brushes anymore, because I do feel that right now I got a set of brushes that I can use more or less all the time and that can satisfy my needs. But from 2022, my favorite watercolor brushes are, so first of all is this brush number 12 round synthetics from De La Rowney, and this is the System 3 series, and that is actually mentioned very rare when people talk about watercolors. But if you do see it in your shop, and for example you're very much into florals, then it's actually a very good brush, and I really recommend this number 12 size, because when you wet it, it does come to a very thin point, and yet it's very springy, so you can definitely make all those leaves that you want and flower petals, and this is exactly what I used it for. And the price is affordable enough so that you do not internally scream every time thinking about how you ruin your brush. At least I've made quite a few pieces with it. I was pressing very hard, and I am rough sometimes with my brushes, I'm not gonna lie. So, and it's holding on pretty well, so I really like it. The next brush is this one. It's Winsor & Newton Cotman series number 10. And I would like to tell you, this brush is great. Seriously, I was so surprised. It comes to a thin point, so it's easy to get into those small details, and yet you can cover large areas as well. It might be not as springy as the one from Delarani, so I don't know if it's good specifically for florals, for example, where it's very important. But if you need a good, so to say, workhorse brush that's good for anything and that you can use over and over again, and then this is the one, because I caught myself very often that I would start with it for big areas and then I'll just continue and make the whole painting with one brush. If you saw my videos from the summer when I actually had those 5 wonderful days and I made like 5 paintings, this was the brush that I was using, because it truly is great and I do really like it. Then another brush was from higher brand, or how to say, from higher price range, and this is the brush from Raphael Kalinsky France 844 series, I suppose, number 6. And it is a really good brush. It's as far as I remember, it is sable, so it is a natural brush, but somehow it's actually quite stiff and springy. So I use this brush when I need to be rough, when I need a brush to hold lots of water, and I would still need to be rough with it if I'm making some weird textures on techniques. And I know that this brush can handle it, so this one is very nice. And the last but not the least, it's this amazing brush from Da Vinci, and I believe this is Squirrel, and it's just nice and juicy mop brush. And there are 2 very special things about it, because I do have this wonderful brush from Escoda, but as you can see, it's pretty long, so it wouldn't feel my it's not a pencil case, my watercolor palette that I often travel with. Just a second, let me show you. So this is the palette that I often take with me with my Daniel Smith paints, and then I like popping some brushes here, and this one just fits perfectly, so I'm not worried that anything would happen to it, it would get damaged. And another thing that I really like about it is this amazing point. It's not super sharp, but it's sharp enough to make that texture on the paper. And to be honest, I do not understand why this is the only brush that has it. Or at least I haven't seen other brushes with similar points, because I would love to have them on other brushes as well, as I use this technique very often and I love scraping, and I know that many other people really like scraping, and it's just great. It's so versatile, beautiful design, nice to hold, and I love it very much. And now let's move on to the paper. And the first, I guess it's sketchbook paper that I would like to show is this watercolor paper from Sösne Grene. It's 230 grams per square meter. It's A5 size, 20 sheet. It's acid free, so it won't get yellow, though it's already rather off-white color, so, but it's perfectly fine with me. And if you watched, I believe it was my last video where I talked about what skills or tricks and tips helped me to improve with my paintings and drawings, and one of them was having, you know, a bad sketchbook where you can just be completely free and experiment. So this is my favorite bad sketchbook, because you see, I just experiment with colors, with the flow, with the techniques, and then sometimes I even come up with something nice that I'm quite happy with. But what I really like about this paper is that the flow on this paper is, well, it's maybe a little bit more one-sided, so it definitely flows better on the right side, so to say, than on the wrong side. But for this price, I think it's minor details, because still the flow is great. It can handle many layers. Seriously, this paper is better than the one you find in Moleskine sketchbooks for watercolors, because there on the second layer it gets absolutely ruined. At least it did for me. Here I made so many layers. I believe here there are approximately, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 layers in certain areas, and it works great. So I really like it, and whenever I have an idea, I would go to this sketchbook and first experiment with it. Or even if I don't have an idea and just want to play out with my colors, I would use the sketchbook, because I know that I don't have to worry about it, and then I can just tear out the pages easily and throw them out. But the quality is surprisingly great, and they do have bigger sizes. So if you have this shop and you really want to have something to paint on which you do not want to care about, if you understand what I mean, I think this is a very, very decent job. I think Sösnekreiner with this did a really, really good job. And to be honest, some of their art supplies, like also I tried one of their newer brushes for watercolors. I believe that they really grow in quality, and I really, really like it. The next paper that I would like to talk about is this Fabriano 1264, made in Italy, 300 grams, A4, 30 sheet, and I believe this one is actually, yeah, 25% cotton. And I picked it up because it was very affordable, so I was like, okay, I'll give it a go. There are also perforated pages, which personally I like very much, because then if there is a nice painting that you like, you can just tear off the paper and put it in a frame. And you know what, this is actually great. This is probably one of the best papers for beginners, and not only for beginners. Personally, I like it much more than the one from Canson XL, because I never really managed to become friends with it, if you understand what I mean. But this paper, it's just great. I like it very much. You can use many layers, you can do scratching, you can do all kinds of experiments. And here you can see where I was using watercolors, and then I was using oil pastel, just to see how it will look, how it will behave. And this paper can handle anything. It's perfect if you want to stick purely to watercolors, and it is even better if you are considering mixed media art, because this paper will take it all. And I think it's just great. Yeah, these are just also some of my experiments, which I didn't necessarily see as being a separate painting, just when I wanted to try something out on a bigger format than just a sketchbook format. And really, really good paper. I come back to it over and over again, and yeah, I like it very much. And now let's move to the high-end watercolor paper. And so this is without any doubt my watercolor sketchbook of the year, because this sketchbook is just great. This is the Hennemüller sketchbook, 100% cotton, and I bought actually two of them, this one and then in the landscape format. So I started with the square one, and you know, I'm in love, and they're just great. So you see, the only downside, but I cannot even call it a downside. So the only thing that happened is that when I was using really lots of water, like super wet and wet, like I like it, only once a little bit just of water got into here, but it happened only once, and I really use lots of water. So, and for me, even this is not an issue at all. Seriously, I don't care, because all the sheets are in place and it's just beautiful. And I don't know, as you can hear, probably it's hard to describe for me how much I love the sketchbook. If you know, I was to go somewhere and I was told, you know, when it comes to paper, there's only one thing that you can take with you, this would be the sketchbook. This is how great it is. It's two-sided. I didn't notice so far any difference from one side to another. I like the subtle texture, and the colors, the paints behaves amazingly, just the way you would expect it to behave. And you can do the layering, the everything, and it's just absolutely amazing. I just really, really like this sketchbook, and yeah, I can't wait to paint more in it, because it's just incredible. It's such a joy to use it. It exceeded all my expectations, and I usually have pretty high expectations when it comes to sketchbooks, but this is just great. So if you're currently considering what sketchbook to go for, and you know that you want to have 100% cotton, because for example, I tried the one from Strathmore 100% cotton, or the one from Mixed Media, and yeah, a couple of others, this one is the best. It's really amazing sketchbook. Couldn't recommend it high enough. And no, it's not sponsored by Hannah Müller. I wouldn't mind though. Feel free to do that. But this is my opinion, and it's really great. I think those who do pick up the sketchbook, they are not disappointed. And when it comes to the paper, the last but not the least, for when I want to make my real pieces, you know, something bigger with the intention to go on the wall or to be, yeah, sold, then this is the paper that I use. So far, it's my paper of choice, and this is the one from Bauer Home, 100% cotton, AC3, 300 grams, 20 sheets. It's 31 by 41 centimeters, which I like very much because the standard frame is approximately 30 by 40 centimeters. So this is just great because then there is 5 millimeters on each side to go under the passepartout. So it just fits, which I like very much because I don't like any additional adjustments that I need to make. I want it to be, you know, ready to go, so to say. And the paper is just beautiful. And this is not the student one because I have a student 100% cotton. I don't know, I haven't tried it. But once I bought a test pack of the artist watercolor paper, and it was so great. It was just amazing that, to be honest, I stocked up on it a little bit, because that's the paper that I'm coming back to over and over again. The texture is incredible. I don't know if you can see it. It's so very nice. It's random. I'm not sure how to say, and this one is cold press, but so it's not too rough, but rough enough. And the way it flows, because on one hand paints, they flow incredibly, and on the other hand you know what to expect. So it's easy to control the paint and to predict the paint. Maybe of course it's because I got used to it. I must say the Hannah Müller watercolor sketchbook is also just as great when it comes to the paint control. But this one is just great. It works for me, and personally I prefer this one over Arches, because for me Arches, it is a great paper. I love it, but I also do struggle with it sometimes, as it seems to be flowing in the wrong direction. I don't know, in the wrong way. It's not that it's bad, but it's just not fully my cup of tea, even though it's a great paper. But for me personally, this paper is the paper of choice at the moment. And the last but not the least, so what are my favorite paints of the year? Do you think you can guess it? I think not, because I mentioned them only briefly, as I didn't think there would be anything special, but it turned out that they're just incredible, absolutely incredible. And I'm talking about this Senilia watercolor set. I picked it up because I figured that's actually so cheap for that price, and I believe there was also an additional discount. But this paint, they cost approximately like a Daniel Smith essential set, but there you get 6 colors that are 5 millimeters, and that means that you get total 30 millimeters of paint, while here it is 10 millimeters and you get 5 colors, which means that you get 50 millimeters. And first of all, this was my first acquaintance with the Senilia paints, and I must tell you, I was underestimating them so much. Well, I didn't expect a lot, because usually when somebody was doing a review, people were pointing out that they're not as bright, for example, as Daniel Smith, but they do layer well, and so on and so on. And I like bright colors. Well, let me tell you, these colors are very bright. They're bright, they flow incredibly. The layering, oh, the layering is amazing. It's just, I don't know, I don't think I ever felt that way when I was trying new paints before, like I did with this set. So the quality is great. This set, the color choice is absolutely amazing. You have a yellow, you have red, you have blue, you have this Chinese orange that's kind of brownish, and you have paints gray. So seriously, you can paint so many things with these 5 colors, whether you are into portraits or into landscapes, or you want to paint something, you know, completely different. Because this Halloween painting that I made, this was made with this set, because I just wanted to experiment and see how it goes. And it's just so very good, and Yeah, I love it. And I also think there's one big advantage over Daniel Smith Essentials set, and that is there you have those 6 tubes that are 5 millimeters. And you actually run out of them very quickly, because I remember I very quickly ran out of Phthalo Blue, I believe. And then, then you already do not have the same set anymore. While here, it would take you twice as long to use this 10 millimeters in, or millimeter, 10 milliliters in the tube. So, you have this harmonious set that would last for longer, and you can really get into using these paints and loving them. And they've been absolutely great. I like them so very much. Maybe the small disadvantage if you're considering to get tube paints and you're leaving somebody in the humid climate is that they do have difficulties to dry. And I put my paints here, and I also got 2 additional colors, which I just bought them to try them out. But other than that, actually, they absolutely no need it, because this set on its own, you can use it for absolutely anything. But so if you see when you, let me put it out, they look quite juicy because they do have difficulty drying. They are honey-based pens. So if you're going specifically for this set and you're planning to travel with them, then keep this in mind that it might be best to take just tubes with you, or otherwise you would need to go with pens. So, but for me, it's okay. In my climate, they dry enough to be able to travel with them if needed. And I already took these paints on me a couple of times, and it's great. It's really watercolor of the year. For me, that's for sure. It was my most, I don't know if it was most used, because I already got them end of summer, I believe, or even later. So it's not like I had the whole year to use them, but I just love them. So if before you never thought that Sennelier paints is something for you, but you like layering a lot, building the depth, I don't know, landscapes, portrait, they are great. They are really great. They're definitely worth attention. Thank you for watching this video. I really hope that you have enjoyed it, and if you have some of your favorite art supplies of 2022, then make sure that you share in the comments down below, because I love getting the inspiration for my own art supplies, and I will be happy to check them out. And for now, make sure that you also check my previous video where I talk about tips and tricks that really helped me to improve my art skills, and specifically watercolor skills, within a very short period of time, because unfortunately recently I don't paint that often at all, which I hope will change in 2023, but we'll see how it goes. But bye for now. See you in my next video. Bye.